You know that quiet, unassuming box in your kitchen, the one that just hums along day after day? Well, it might seem simple, but it's actually performing a little miracle of physics, constantly. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see exactly how it pulls it off. I mean, think about it. You open the door, and this wave of cold air hits you. But how on earth does a machine that's plugged into a warm wall socket make the space inside it colder than the room it's in? It kind of feels like magic, right? Well, that's the exact mystery we're going to solve. So, here's our game plan. First, we'll get into the why. Why do we even need to cool food in the first place? Then, we're diving deep into the magical refrigeration cycle, step by step. We'll meet the key components, take a super quick trip through history, and then, I promise, you'll never look at your fridge the same way again. Let's start at the very beginning. This whole incredible machine was invented to solve one of the oldest problems humanity has ever faced: how to keep our food from spoiling. Okay, so here's the core idea. Refrigeration doesn't actually kill the tiny microorganisms on your food. It just puts them in super slow motion. As the temperature drops down toward freezing, their activity just slows to a crawl. And once you get below freezing, they basically stop moving altogether. That's the secret sauce. All right, now for the main event. And here's the biggest secret of all. Your refrigerator doesn't make cold. It's not a cold creator. Instead, it's a heat mover. It's basically a pump that takes warmth from inside the fridge and dumps it out into your kitchen. And to do that, we're going to follow a special fluid, the refrigerant, on its incredible journey. It all kicks off with the compressor. This is the heart, the muscle of the whole system. It takes in a low-pressure refrigerant gas and, well, it squeezes it hard. If you've ever used a bicycle pump and felt it get hot, you know exactly what's happening. Compressing that gas crams the molecules together, which cranks up its pressure and, more importantly, its temperature. The physics behind this is a principle called Gay-Lussac's law. It's super simple. For a gas, when you increase the pressure, the temperature goes up too. So the compressor isn't just making pressure for no reason. It is intentionally making the refrigerant super hot, and you're about to see why that is so genius. So now, this really hot, high-pressure gas gets pushed into the condenser coils. You know, those black snake-like coils on the back of an older fridge? Because that gas is now way hotter than your kitchen, the heat naturally wants to escape. It radiates out of the coils and into the room. As it loses all that heat, the gas condenses and turns into a high-pressure liquid. Now that high-pressure liquid is about to hit a major bottleneck. It's an incredibly thin copper tube called the capillary tube. As the liquid is forced through this tiny, tiny space, its pressure just plummets. It drops dramatically. And this step right here is the crucial setup for what's coming next. And here it is, the grand finale of the cycle. That now low-pressure liquid flows into the evaporator coils, which are hidden inside your freezer. Because of that super low pressure, its boiling point is insanely low. We're talking as low as minus 41 degrees Celsius for some refrigerants. So even inside a freezing cold freezer, it starts to boil. And what does anything do when it boils? And absorbs a ton of heat. The refrigerant is literally sucking the warmth right out of your food and the air around it. That's where the cold comes from. So just look at that complete transformation. The refrigerant goes from a cool gas to a hot liquid, and then to a crazy cold boiling liquid mix that acts like a heat sponge. Then it completes the loop, heads back to the compressor as a gas, and starts the whole wild ride all over again. Now, that cycle is absolutely brilliant, but it can't happen on its own. It needs a whole team of components, all working in perfect harmony. So let's meet the key players, the unsung heroes of the fridge. Okay, we've already met the big four. The compressor is the muscle. The condenser is like the heat-dumping radiator. The capillary tube is the critical pressure valve, and the evaporator is the heat sponge. But you've also got the thermostat, which is the brains of the operation, the relay that acts as the switch, and even a little heater that acts as a frost buster to prevent ice from building up. And I really want to emphasize this quote. You have this big, powerful compressor and all these coils, but it's this tiny, simple, thin copper tube that is the absolute linchpin of the whole system. It creates that massive pressure drop that makes cooling possible. Without it, the whole thing just doesn't work. So how did we get from figuring out these scientific principles to having this appliance that, let's be honest, we pretty much can't live without? Let's take a quick look at how the refrigerator evolved. Believe it or not, the basic idea has been around for centuries. Way back in 1748, a guy named William Cullen showed it was possible in a lab. Then, in the mid-1800s, the famous scientist Michael Faraday had a breakthrough liquefying ammonia with pressure. But it took until 1914 for Nathaniel B. Wales to finally put all the pieces together into the first practical electric refrigerator you could actually have in your home.
And of course, that evolution has never stopped. Today, you've got all kinds of options. There's the classic top freezer, which is still usually the most energy efficient. You have the side-by-side, which is great if you don't have a lot of space for a wide door to swing open. And then you've got the popular French door models with those huge wide shelves perfect for things like party platters. Each one is just a different answer to the same basic problem.
Okay, let's bring this all home. We've gone through the history, we've met the parts, we've traced that amazing refrigeration cycle. So what's the one big idea you should walk away with? This is it. This is the single most important thing to remember. Your refrigerator does not create cold. It's an active machine, a heat pump, and its only job is to constantly grab heat energy from inside and pump it out into your kitchen. That's it. That's why the back of your fridge feels warm. It's literally dumping heat. So the next time you open that door to grab a drink or a snack, just pause for a second. Listen for the hum of the compressor kicking on. And think about that incredible journey of heat, that endless cycle of compressing, condensing, expanding, and evaporating, all happening inside that box, just to keep your food fresh. It's not magic at all. It's just brilliant, beautiful science.